So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé MK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 7, Episode 13 of Before the 90 Days. In this episode, Mr. Ark tells Niles that Matilda might be scamming him with this knocking ceremony. Joe learns how to pronounce Magda's name, kind of. Vanja seems to end things with Bozo. Ingrid finds out exactly how many times Brian has been married, divorced, or engaged. Sunny gives Veah an ultimatum regarding Rory, and Loren has a ridiculous plan to get his Filipino visa. We'll be back again next week to talk about episode 14, and we're also back on our other channel, Love After Lockup MK, where we're covering the new season of Life After Lockup. Alright, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm pretty good because I am done working before Thanksgiving, and now I got a 5-day weekend, and we can cruise into the holiday.
Well, I have still one more day left, so I am not quite there. But let's jump into a couple where it kind of feels like the holidays just because of the singing, and that's Loren and Faith. So in the Philippines, Faith is getting some street food with Loren. It's their last night in Leyte, and Faith's sisters feel there is more good than bad in their relationship, but Faith says she still needs to work through some things. Loren and Faith are eating chicken intestines, and they compare it to eating meat spaghetti, which, when they compared it to that, I was like, interesting. That sounds good.
The intestine part, not so much. The spaghetti,
meat spaghetti,
but it's meat.
Yeah, that sounds great. Loren asks about Faith's time with her sisters and if they talked about him. Faith says her sisters liked him, but she's worried about his cheating. Loren says that the cheating was just a miscommunication, but it would be different because she's perfect. Faith says no one is perfect. Loren says that she is until she shows she isn't. Loren is serious about her and he wants to be there for her. Loren asks if he can be her boyfriend now, and Faith agrees and Loren is relieved. Loren says that they have to figure out how he can stay in the country. He tells her that if she loves him, they have to make a plan, and he proposes that they go to Thailand and get married because they accept same-sex marriage there, and then they'll just come back to the Philippines and show them the papers. He then proposes the idea of marrying her mom so he can stay. He assures her that it's on paper only, and he would send them money. Faith says that she needs more time for a plan, and she also looked super disgusted at his plans. Faith says that Loren's ideas were wild, and now she's just suspicious that he has ulterior motives of just trying to stay in the Philippines. Later, Faith's family is setting up some home karaoke. Faith tells us how karaoke is allowed until 10 p.m., otherwise the police will come. They're singing some Christmas carols, and Faith says that this trip helped her heal, but she's still not sure about marriage. After, they have snacks of mango and shrimp paste. Loren is a good sport about trying the food, but doesn't think that mango and shrimp paste go together. Loren talks to the family about moving to the Philippines. Her sister brings up how hard it's going to be for him to find a job there. And Loren says that he has a lot of skills and experiences, like farming and driving and cooking and martial arts. Loren doesn't think that they should dismiss the marriage to the mom thing and asks Faith to ask her mom about the marriage plans. So Faith tells the family the plan, and they all think it's a joke and literally laugh. Faith's mom thinks it's weird, and she really just doesn't want to be involved. Faith thinks that Thailand is an okay idea, but the mom plan is just straight up crazy. Faith is feeling pressure to get married even though they're not engaged. Faith doesn't want her whole family to think that they're crazy. Loren notices that Faith is hesitant to talk about marriage plans, but it's Loren's dream, he says, to live in the Philippines. All right, so do you think that his plan to, marry mom was really serious, or was he just doing a production thing to kind of be crazy and that, he really had no intention of marrying mom?
No, I think he would definitely do it. I think he would 100%, because he, the way he talks, the way I see him, what we know about him, one thing I am very confident is this guy would do fraud. Yes.
Sure.
He would absolutely do a fraud. I don't think he'd, try to actually that the marry your mom on paper so I get to stay in the Philippines.
Yeah.
That sounds like him. Yeah. That sounds like something he would do. And he'd be like, what? And the way he creepily smiles when he says it, and I can marry your mom and that'll be great, right? And just the weird fucking like clown ass smile he always has with him always makes everything he says seem like 15 to 20% creepier.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm still confused by this dude. Like, didn't he say, like, at the beginning of this season how he does not want to be in any monogamous relationship? He doesn't know how, that even works. He's trying to float the idea of an open relationship to Faith. But then telling Faith, it's only you. I will never cheat again. There will be no others. Like, how do you go from, I'm going to talk this person into being in an open relationship to, it will only be you. Let's be monogamous forever.
I mean, I can see a normal person, right? Mm-hmm. Coming to I was like, listen, if I want to be in a relationship with this person, it's going to take me giving up on that. Like, that's not going to work. And I have a decision to make. Do I want non-monogamy or do I want Faith? Do I know that he did that? Because what we see here is his primary goal. Being with Faith is nice. His primary goal is to live in the Philippines.
Yeah.
That is goal number one. And Faith kind of seems like she suspects that, but I don't know if she, given that she took him back as boyfriend, Loren, like, I don't know that she really sees it. It's a suspicion rather than when I see it, it's very clear. Like, this guy just is running away from the United States and wants to move to the Philippines by any means necessary. And if that means marrying your mom, then I'll do that. And if that means telling you I'll be monogamous when I, maybe down the road we'll decide I don't want to be, it can mean that. Now, I don't understand why he brought up the mom thing. In
front of the mom or just in general?
In general, when that seems like something you bring up when Thailand fails.
Yeah,
like you have this Thailand
why is that
plan.
An option?
You have a Thailand plan. Let's wait. Let's wait until you get your break in case of emergency plan. Thailand seems reasonable. Like, that seems like a reasonable plan.
Yeah, makes no damn sense to me either.
Yeah, I think that was about it from them, right? Like,
yeah,
he's
much.
weird. He's weird. Mom wants to marry mom. That's just, and I did appreciate the mom. It was like, yeah, I want no part of that.
She's like, I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that.
I want no part of your weirdness.
Yeah. And I don't know that mom understood that, this marriage would involve like no sex or anything like that. It would just be like, oh, officially. But she was like, I'm not going to be a part of your fraud. Like, get your fraud away from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Speaking of people that are not on the same page, let's talk about Joe and Madga. Oh gosh, this is just so ridiculous.
Yeah, so he's a ridiculous person. Mm-hmm.
He is so ridiculous. So Joe is practicing his Polish in the car with Madga. He takes a moment to pause to just stare at Madga and admire her beauty. He thinks that their connection is strong. He feels like she's kind of like his girlfriend, sort of. In an interview, he calls her Magna, and the producers ask if it's Magda or Magna, and that makes Joe confused, and he's not really sure which name it is. Magda says she definitely noticed he calls her Magna, but it's okay because she loves him. They take the stairs with all their luggage as they check out the apartment they're staying in. Magda notices that oh my gosh, you just did it.
Oh, yeah, you did it.
Magda notices that there are 2 rooms, so she's planning on sleeping in separate rooms, and Joe is clearly disappointed. He thinks he can work his charm and get it with Magda. Magda wants to build something strong and not just jump into bed. But Joe points out that there's no AC, and he thinks that, okay, he just has to go with the flow. And so then he thinks that maybe, they can, cuddle to cool down there's no AC, which
doesn't make the opposite of sense. Yes.
Makes no sense. Joe has bought Magda matching Nikes, so they head out to the center. Joe really likes how vibrant Poland is, and he had low expectations based on the video calls because it seemed gloomy every time he called. They take shots of vodka and get pierogies. Madga makes a face as Joe enjoys the mad good food. He then brings up, the sleeping arrangements. And Joe thinks it's strange that Madga is so adamant about getting married and having kids, but not wanting to test the sexual waters out. They go to bed separately, and in the morning, Joe goes into her room to snuggle. He says that he had nightmares without her. Madga says that she doesn't want to have sex until he proposes with the ring because then she'll know that he has chosen her. Joe asks what if they're not sexually compatible because it's very important. It doesn't make sense to him, and now he has doubt in his mind. He's wondering if she just wants to get to the U.S. He says it's a lot of work to have sex. I don't know.
Yeah.
She says that when he's 60 and can't have sex, that he has to just love her, and Joe thinks his stuff is still going to be working at 60. So Madga just rolls her eyes and lowers the age to 50. Joe thinks it's good to know each other both physically and emotionally. Madga says that she needs to trust him, so that's why she wants to do everything slow. She wants to put off the conversation. So they're going to go do some pretzel making and Abwarnik. I don't remember. I have it spelled out, but I cannot pronounce it. They're making pretzels. So Joe is being a class clown, and the jokes just aren't landing, and Madga looks embarrassed. Madga is annoyed with Joey's immature obsession with saying penis or penis. Madga wants to have a serious conversation with him before she trusts him. After making the pretzels, they go vodka tasting. Joe considers himself a connoisseur. Madga doesn't seem as into it as he is. She then brings up him sleeping with another girl. Madga says that she was wearing a ring on her left hand so men didn't approach her. And Joe thinks it's crazy that she, felt that committed without even meeting. Joe didn't know that they were even in a relationship. Madga says that she only knew because she asked him about the other woman, and Joe claims that he would have told her. Madga says that he had sex on her birthday, and Joe doesn't remember exactly when it was. He says it was only one. Madga says that she's scared he will try to cheat again or lie to her about it. He asks her to trust him, and Madga says that she just doesn't know. She doesn't know what to say, and it's weird to not remember when you slept with someone. All right, so do you really think that Joe doesn't remember, or do you think that he's just saving it because he's trying to spare her feelings and details?
No, I don't think he's that smart. I think he honestly, I think it's like when you're him and you're a huge fuckboy and you think nothing of sleeping, you're like, you get I can understand making sense. Like, even if you're not that big of a fuckboy, like, who writes it down? You'd be like, it was like February-ish. Like, I could see that making sense and not being like, oh, it was February 3rd. I remember because that was the only time. No, you wouldn't like, you'd be like, yeah, it was around Valentine's Day, I think. Like, I don't know. I don't have a specific date for you. That is very plausible to me.
Yeah, I think women are a little bit better about it because usually it's easy to kind of center things around period things. Right?
Okay.
So you're like, oh, well, that was like a week before my period, or, oh, that was happening like right after my period. And so it's like easy to kind of put things in like a timeline context just based on something that happens monthly, you know? So I think it is more common for women, especially because period and sex, they kind of go together, and so you kind of, it's easier to keep track of those things. So I can see how she is confused. Like, how do you not know?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that if you want, I'm sure if you wanted to go back and forensically figure out when it was,
sure,
based on messages and things like that,
text
he could.
Or something.
But yeah, if I had hooked up with somebody 4 months ago, it would be like I could give you the month, right?
Yeah.
I could definitely give you the month. I would not have the date, the actual day memorized. I would have to be like, oh, let me go back to my April text messages and okay, oh, all right, that's the message when, like, before we met, like, that day. And so it must have been that. Right. And so I can get that. But I also kind of find it suspicious. And I think her bigger suspicion is like, this is such a, even if it was just one woman, this is such a casual activity for you that you didn't even think of it being a event worth noting, right? Is a red flag for her.
I mean, I am kind of wary of this dude too. Like, I don't believe him when he said it was only that one.
No, I don't believe him.
If he really,
nope.
Thought that they weren't in a relationship and he could so casually, and I mean, he even said that it meant nothing to him. Why would he just randomly, casually have sex one of the days, of that 4 months? Like, he still doesn't even really consider her his girlfriend. He even said, he was like, yeah, it's, this is really nice. Like, I feel a strong connection. It's kind of like she's my girlfriend. It's like, well, she certainly seems to think that she's your girlfriend, on track to be fiance. And you are like barely acknowledging that you're in this relationship, and you so casually like talk about sex. That how was this only a one-time deal? I just don't believe it.
Yeah, I'm on the same. I broadly agree with that too. This guy is clearly, as we mentioned many times, such a fuckboy.
Yeah.
That there's no way in 6 months he hooked up with one person and then was like, when he admittedly during those 6 months did not think he was in a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just think he's lying right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
and that's wrong.
But it's just so much of him not giving a shit. Like, he doesn't even give enough of a shit to pronounce her name correctly.
Oh my God. Yes, I know. That's so sad. And it's sad that she's just willing to accept that behavior from someone.
Right. I mean, that to me, that's a pretty much, I'm not going past like date 2. If by date 2 you're still saying my name wrong,
right?
Like I'm not. No, this clearly doesn't mean anything to you. We're clearly not going anywhere. Yeah. I can't imagine getting this far and being like, I don't know. He calls me Mr. J, even though my name's Mr. O. I whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I don't even understand too. Like, what does he have her saved in his phone as? Is it even spelled correctly? Because is this one of those things where she corrected him once and then he continued to do it anyway? Because then I'd be like, this guy's an idiot. Like, I don't want to be with a guy who can't realize that he's saying the wrong name, even though he's been corrected.
And I get it a little bit. I think she just also doesn't understand enough of her English and familiarity with broadly different accents might be hurting her here because I can understand, like, if you are like, it's me, and if I was dating someone named like Juliana or something like that, and they'd be like, no, it's Juliana. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, your name's Juliana. Like, and if she's just like, well, that's just the way his accent makes it sound, is like Magna instead of Magda, and was like, enough. But it's enough, like, but she doesn't know enough about American. Like, no, Magda is not hard for Americans to say, and it's not unusual, like too unusual on our tongue that we can't really pronounce it. Right. Yeah. Because there's actually weirdly, certain, like, if you haven't learned certain, phone sounds and languages, you can't. Oh, sure. Absolutely. By the time you're 4, you can never make those sounds. Right. Right. It's not one of those. Like, he is certainly capable of saying it if he wants to say it. And it's just all of that is that, and yeah, if I was her, it's already, it's getting very close to runaway. Like, scenario. It's like, because
I feel like it's he's there already, no?
It's well, yeah, it should be. But I don't know if she was quite ready for the most predictable thing that's going to happen is him, even though she said we're not having sex on this trip, trying to get laid the entire trip.
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, it's so annoying to me already. He's like, keeps on making sexual jokes the whole time.
Yeah, and then
it's like,
yeah. But he also, like, not only is he making this like penis jokes, he always says penis.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, he has this thing, how can we get married if we don't know if we're sexually compatible?
Right.
And it's like, I mean, not that I've married anybody that I didn't know that already with, but, like, you'll be fine. It's not that hard. Like I promise you, if you're truly in love with someone and you get married to them and you want to build a life together, you'll figure out the sex thing.
Right.
It's not going to be like,
figure it out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. It's not going to be something that's just like, well, nope, sorry, we just don't fit together. That doesn't work. Like, her parts do not line up with mine, and it is impossible. I guess I'll just be celibate from now on. That's not what's going to happen.
Yeah. He's definitely ridiculous, and if it's that important, it's just they're not on the same page, which is fine. It's fair. Mm-hmm. But don't pretend like you're on the same page and then try get her on your page.
Right. Well, yeah, I understand that we're trying. If she wants to figure out things, then there's things I need to figure out as well, and that means blah blah blah. All right. So speaking of people who are not on the same page, let's talk about Vanja and Bozo. So we start with Vanja. She's distraught on the street after this disastrous dinner with Bozo's friends. So she thought things were going in the right direction, getting a little bit better. He was bringing her out to meet her friends. Maybe he is a little bit more serious. But no, that's not what happened. She feels like she was played the fool, and she should have listened to her friends back in Florida. She feels like he talked such a big game when he was in the States, and now, he's just not into it. Back in the restaurant, he tells his friends, and his friends tell him that she's basically like, she's like way out of your league, dude. And she came here all the way to the States from you. You probably should give this a chance. Like 3 weeks, see if you can develop any of the chemistry. But he just keeps saying, I just don't feel it. I just don't have it. It's not there. He does feel bad about that she came all the way out here. And he feels like he's the one who let her down, because he is. And he goes outside to talk with her. She seems a little surprised and upset that he came out and just kind of tries to walk away. He catches up and says he's sorry, and she totally brushes him off. She's like, fine, great, message received, bye, go away. He says that he'll be there if she wants to talk, but, whatever, the ball's in her court now. She feels like she doesn't even want to give him the satisfaction of talking, so, yeah. She tells us in an interview that the whole situation must have just been too much for him, like the demand that he love her, or he tells us, it was just too much for me. It was like she was coming in and she was like, you need to love me. I love you. And she deserves somebody that isn't going to be fake, and he didn't want to be fake. So he says he probably isn't ready for a relationship, and he feels really bad that he found out this way by putting her through this. So the next day, she's like on her balcony and telling us about how stupid and hurt she felt last night. So she also got a voice text from him that really confused her. It invites her for a friendly lunch as a true friend. In the message, it says, as a true friend. She says what she'd like to tell him to do is fuck off, but, producers probably want her to go and see what happens, so she'll go and see what happens.
Of course.
An hour later, she's waiting for him in a cafe. So he says he doesn't want to leave things in such a bad way and hopes that they can be friends. He sits down in short sleeves and she's like, aren't you cold? Because it seems really, really windy. And she starts off with a serious conversation. She doesn't understand what the point of her coming all the way here was. Why would I come here? Why would I come here if not to try to build a deeper relationship? So, because that's really being about the same page. I didn't think we were that serious. And she was like, I came to Europe for you. Like that. How did you not think that was serious? So he says he thought she'd just come and they'd have a good time for 3 weeks. And he didn't really think about why she would want to come or what she'd be expecting. So he's sorry he disappointed her. So she is still confused because he said, I love you over a text message. Like it was in there and that happened. And he said, I never said that. But she brings out her phone and brings out the receipts. Yeah. She shows him on translated messages where he definitely said, I love you. And when confronted about it, look at this. Here it is on my phone. He's like, oh, that is so me. So then jokes, I guess that means I love you. It's like, oh my God. She did not appreciate the joke.
No.
So back at the cafe, because that was during an interview, we saw that. She asks if he ever wanted to date. Like, did you ever want to date me? And he kind of says like, yeah, but the chemistry just wasn't there. We met in real life. And, he's really crushed that it wasn't there. He really made him feel bad that she was totally into it. He was definitely not. So he says he found her and her level of affection to be overwhelming, but she feels like, I don't think you did, because you pretty much shut things down immediately, like on day one. Like we took me from the airport, we went to the class, and you were like, this is my friend. So he kind of makes the pitch that they should still stay in touch as friends, and she's like, no, I'm not interested in that. So thanks for nothing. They hug and part, and she leaves questioning like every interaction she's ever had online. Is everybody full of shit? Are they all lying to me? So now she thinks she might as well just pack her bags and go home. So for now, they're both going to be alone in Croatia. All right. So, I guess I'm like, what do you think it really is? Do you think it's his lack of chemistry, or do you think it is him just not being over his ex?
I don't know if it's either, really.
Okay.
I don't know if it's really his ex. I think that's part of it, and it's not even that he's like hung up, like he thinks that he's gonna get back together again with her, but maybe he's just like generally depressed.
Yes,
right? And
sure.
so it might also seem like he thinks that he doesn't really have a chance with her more long term. And I don't know. It could be lots of things, but I do think that the chemistry wasn't there. And yeah, but I mean, I don't really know. All I know is that he has not handled the situation well at all.
No.
And I really do feel bad for her. And I kind of like understand why he reached his kind of breaking point. I do think there was a very small chance that given the 3 weeks, if she had the full 3 weeks, that he could have slow burned this into a relationship. You know, but she came at him hard, and I think it was really off-putting to him.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think everything was off-putting to him. I think coming at him hard with anger was off-putting. I thought coming at him hard with affection was off-putting.
Yes.
And because, I mean, and the more I saw this, it's like the whole ex thing was one thing, but I also am like, it was plausible to me that this guy was just so dumb, he didn't think about why she would come. And really did not think she was as into him as she was. And it was just like, you know, kind of, yeah, I'll come to Europe and we'll hang out. And he's like, fantastic. I love to hang out. Hanging out's fun. And got here and it was like, you're my fiance, basically, right? And he was like, no, that is not. And so I could see him being so kind of inept and so failing to read the room that he did not know that she was coming over like to really try to build a relationship and not just to have some fun and hang out.
I can definitely see that because he did kind of make it seem like he was going to be a tour guide, right? And he was certainly treating like their first meeting like he was a tour guide of some kind. And so I can certainly see him feeling like, oh, this woman is coming to like visit me and, you know, we'll just, you know, I'll show her around and we'll have a good time. But it does also kind of throw things differently and you can look at it differently because he did say he loved her. Yeah. And so for him to play dumb like that, it's like, oh, she's just better off, really.
Yeah, that's the part that gets it. It's like, this woman is just coming. That maybe could think it's friendly. I'll tour her. I'll see her around the city. Yeah. She's been there. But this is a woman that you met on a dating app and have been talking to you and said you loved her. Like, but I could also see him kind of saying I love you in his weird sense of humor way. Yeah. And she totally did not pick up on it, right?
Right. I mean, she's better off because this guy just doesn't seem like he takes a whole lot seriously. I mean, I honestly thought that he was going to take it more seriously because of the way his mom was. Like, please, like, we have hope. You're going to finally get married.
Yes, marry this one. Knock it down.
Right. Yeah. So I thought that, you know, he was taking it seriously, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure, right? From Vanja, from his mom, where it's just easier for him, less scary for him to just kind of walk away from it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Matilda and Niles. So they're back at the hotel and Niles is trying to get her to heat up the coffee by complimenting her. So she heats it up and then brings up that Niles needs to talk to Mr. Ark about partaking in the knocking ceremony. Niles says the ceremony can't happen if he doesn't have family representation. And Matilda is coaching him through some texts, making small talk with Mr. Ark. She's worried because Mr. Ark is a tough man to please. They meet with Mr. Ark, and Niles is a little thrown off because he reaches for his right hand to shake as per their customs, but Mr. Ark doesn't have a right hand, kinda. He has a prosthetic hand instead. So Niles is super embarrassed already and apologizes, and Mr. Ark isn't bothered and asks him about his time in Ghana. Niles says that he likes it, then almost immediately asks him to represent his father in the knocking ceremony. Mr. Ark says that he is there as his father, but wants to talk to him about marriage because marriage is different in Ghana than it is in the U.S. He asks about the ceremonial marriage. When he finds out about Niles wanting to delay, Mr. Ark doesn't like this and says that Niles has to follow their customs and he will never allow it. He says that their marriage is a custom, so either it's all or nothing. Niles doesn't know why Matilda's family approved to postpone the wedding if it's so important in their culture. He asks if he can speak to him privately. Mr. Ark says that he wasn't treated like a father. Mr. Ark was supposed to be part of the negotiations in the knocking ceremony. Niles admits that he already negotiated, and Mr. Ark just kind of rolls his eyes. Mr. Ark says if anything is held against Niles, he's the one who's held responsible, so now he's upset. Niles then tells Mr. Ark about the knocking ceremony and the dinner. Mr. Ark says that's ridiculous because their weddings are very simple and you don't need anything. He then says that women can be deceitful, as he's implying that Matilda lied to him about, needing to have this dinner for so many people. Niles didn't know he needed someone like Mr. Ark to guide him through this part of the process. Niles tells Mr. Ark that he made a mistake trusting Matilda. Niles is reminded of his parents who think that Matilda is taking advantage of him. Mr. Ark and his wife then sit down with Niles and Matilda. Niles confronts Matilda about how he was supposed to see Mr. Ark first, and Matilda apologizes and says that she's sorry. Matilda said that she did it because the wedding was postponed and he needed to explain it to her family. Niles then confronts Matilda about the dinner that's supposed to be after the knocking ceremony. Mr. Ark tells Niles to go easy on her, and Matilda is mad because she thinks that Niles is making it look like she wants some luxurious over-the-top wedding. All she wanted to do was marry Niles, and now she's embarrassed in front of a respected member of her community. Mr. Ark just wants a traditional knocking ceremony and a wedding ceremony, no frills, and he will stand by, Niles in this, if he does it this way. In the cab, Niles tries to talk to Matilda, and Matilda asks if she's ever steered him wrong. Niles says that he has questions for her. Matilda tells him that she's so embarrassed because of how he presented her to Mr. Ark. Niles says that she never told him that he had to see Mr. Ark in the first place. Matilda was embarrassed in front of the elder. Niles asks her if the order mattered. So why did he do the knocking ceremony before talking to Mr. Ark? And why does this knocking ceremony dinner have to be for 90 people? And Niles and Matilda argue about the food. Matilda says that Niles has never given any money to her. Matilda claims to want to have a lot of people to make him happy. So Niles points out that he's autistic and large parties are the last thing that he wants. Niles has reached a breaking point and asks her to stop talking, and Matilda doesn't stop and tells him that she is disgraced, and you can kind of physically see that Niles is having a bit of a breakdown as she, ignores his request to continue talking.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what did you think of this whole thing? Because there was just a lot, and it was interesting to kind of see that, Mr. Ark's perspective on all of this, and it did make me kind of question Matilda like Niles is right now.
I mean, I think that Mr. Ark was missing a very key piece of information where the expectation was that he was going to get married as soon as they got here, and she had already invited a bunch of people to this wedding.
Yeah.
And so he's missing out on this whole aspect where this knocking ceremony, which is way bigger than it's supposed to be in the traditional things, is because it's a consolation prize for not having a wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also think that he was saying, regardless if there's a wedding or knocking ceremony, like, it's supposed to be no frills. So I think that's where Niles is coming from, right? Like, I get that it's a consolation, but there shouldn't be
but I could
anything.
also, even the entire wedding's supposed to be no frills. Like,
yeah, that's what Mr. Ark kind of made it sound like.
I don't know, but I believe it. Like, I think you could find people in the U.S. that would tell you weddings are supposed to be no frills too,
Yeah.
and there's certainly frilly weddings in the U.S.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And they might say, "Oh, that's just a waste of money. They're just taking your goddamn money with that stupid big wedding. You don't need to do anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can just go to the courthouse and you can have a wedding there. That's all you need. Nobody makes you do anything." You know, I could see that being a way of doing it, and maybe it's a modern versus traditional thing. But there was also just like a weird vibe out of, "Oh, you should have come talk to me first. Why didn't you tell him to come talk to me first? I am the father figure, and I'm going to be disgraced." All this nonsense, all this stuff, right?
Yeah. It was a bit over the top.
Well, because if Niles' dad would have agreed to support them or be the representatives for him, if his parents approved of the marriage, ain't nobody would have talked to Mr. Ark ever.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? He wouldn't have been in at all. And it was like, it wasn't until like they thought to be like, "Yo, dude, where's your dad?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, he doesn't approve." And they were like, "Do you need somebody to be your dad?" Like it. So because, and I think it was just, I mean, I think it's a lot of misunderstanding, and it's a lot of people not knowing what to do. And like, I don't think it was nefarious that she was like, "We'll talk to my family before you talk to before you talk to Mr. Ark, and we'll get our claws into you and deceive you and blah, blah, and do all that." As much as she was like, "I don't know what to do either. Like, I never done a wedding before. Like, it's supposed to be the dude who does all the wedding stuff. Like, I don't fucking know. I don't know what to do."
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure this out myself. And, you know, then people are like, "Well, why didn't you talk to Mr. Ark yet? Like, why didn't you go talk to a father figure yet?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess we should go do that." Like, so I kind of feel like a lot of it is, I don't know how much of in the culture, like those things are shared. Do you tell your daughter that's the way the wedding is supposed to go? Or do you just be like, "Well, no, the person who buries her and her father, who's not around, who's not there anymore, he'll do it," right? So I don't know how much it is that, and we don't. It's just one of those cultural things, because every African wedding we've seen, I know it hasn't been Ghana, but it's not like they ever have low key weddings,
Right. But maybe it is considered low key weddings, like, in the sense where, because I think where Mr. Ark got kind of hung up was the fact that he was spending so much money on this food. So it's not to say that, you know, none of the weddings have food or anything like that, or that they don't have dancing, or they don't have, you know, some of these things that are, you know, what weddings are kind of known for. I think what Mr. Ark's point is that, you know, you don't spend this kind of money on a wedding.
Yeah, and I guess I'm assuming it was 200, because we had a little bit of back and forth. Is it $200 or is it 200? What did they call them with the Ghanaian currency, like Sine or something?
I thought it was whatever the equivalent of $200 was.
Okay, so yeah, cedis, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 200, but that's still, I don't know. It's hard to get a gauge on what the actual purchasing power is of things, because $200 to feed 90 people, that's not bad.
Oh no, it doesn't seem that bad, but I mean, by
and I'm saying I don't. That's what I'm saying.
Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know that either, because I think because I also understand that's where I say Mr. Ark doesn't have the whole story.
Right.
Right, because he's like, "Oh, she needs $200 for food," and he's like, "There's only 5 people there. What do you need $200 for?" Right. And she's like, "Well, there's not 5 people there, because all the people that were coming into town for the wedding are still going to come. We're just going to call it a knocking ceremony now."
Yeah.
And so I'm feeding 90 people for $200, and not like I could see him thinking like, "What? A small knocking ceremony, and you're spending $200 on food? My brother, she's taking advantage of you." Right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So let's talk about Veah and Sunny. Speaking of, this was tough. So we start with a little bit of an overlap with Veah and Sunny, like from last week. Yeah. So we see that Sunny wants Rory to leave so that all of her attention can be on me, and none of it can be on him. And then Sunny stomps out in anger. So he doesn't like the way Rory was talking about him, and she chases him out, and Rory's just kind of standing in the pool hall watching. Outside, Sonny says that she has to choose, and she says, I'm not going to choose. I shouldn't have to choose. And he says he does not get that at all. What do you mean you don't have to choose? You have to. Either you send him home or you're with me. And if you can't choose to cut him out of your life, then it's your fault that this relationship won't work. He just says, I just can't take this anymore. So Veah says she doesn't want this to be the thing that comes between him and doesn't want to lose him, but says that if sending Rory home is what it's going to take to keep him, then she says, okay, I'll tell Rory to leave. And Sonny gives a shit-eating grin on his face and like gives her a hug. And then she tells us that this ultimatum tells her that he doesn't have faith in their relationship. And that worries her a lot, but apparently doesn't worry her a lot enough to break up. So let's go the other way, because I'm a little curious about where do you think this is going to go? Because at this point, if I was Rory, I know what I would do. If you were Rory and she said to leave, would you be like, yeah, fuck you, I'm not leaving?
I mean, it's a free world.
You can't make me leave.
Yeah, you can't
South
make
Africa, man.
Leave.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't really know what Sonny expects for him to pay to leave early or just to not see him again while they're there. Because then if that's the case, like, I would go with that. Right? Because then that's really like everybody is kind of winning, because that's what Veah wants. She wants Rory to be available in case of emergency.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, and
she
so,
doesn't need to spend time with him while he's there.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't need to see him at all. And so if I think that if she just says to Sonny, like, okay, I will not see him. I will not speak to him the rest of the time that we're here. It's like he's not even here. It's like he went home.
But I don't think that would be good enough for him.
No,
and
I don't think so
that's what's concerning, because he's like, I want you to have no safety valve. I am it, and anything else that might keep you from me is unacceptable. It must be gone. And that's fucking bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah, but I kind of get where he is, because he's forcing this because he's upset and angry that she brought the ex in the first place. I feel like he would feel differently if it was just some rando guy friend. But it's the fact that it's the ex that's what's got him fired up even more.
Yeah, and which is a little bit unusual, because at this point, I mean, I know we felt differently kind of at the beginning of a year, but the beginning of a season. But from what I've seen is like, if she wanted to be with him, she would be with him.
Yeah.
Like if she wanted to be with Rory, she would already have been with Rory. And so that makes it much less of a thing to worry about to me. But like, ultimately, from where I sit, if my partner is trying to tell me who I can and can't hang out with, we're done. We're done. We're not having that discussion. You do not, especially from someone who has been through so much control issues as she has, to be like, and now you're going to tell me who I can't see, who I can't have with me? Fuck you, man. Fuck you so hard. You're gone. And it's depressing to watch her give in on this to me. It's sad.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if her end goal is to try keep Sonny, what other choice does she have?
Why? That shouldn't be her end goal. That's my point. The fact that she's still trying to cling on to this person who's controlling her like this, that's what's sad. Right? And yeah, and from Sonny's end, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I find it very hard to empathize with what he wants, which is, again, that you don't pay attention to anyone but me. That's not how the world works.
Right. All right. Let's move on to our last couple. Yeah, our last couple. Brian and Ingrid. So Brian and Ingrid are in Recife. Brian is concerned about Ingrid saying that she doesn't want to mother him or be his babysitter because he wants both of those things. I don't know. Brian is confused, but he wants to figure out if this will work or not. And so Brian wants Ingrid to meet his other friend Brian from when he used to live there. So we'll just call him Brian
Very
2.
confusing.
Yeah, because they refer to Brian 2 that way on subtitles. So Brian 2 says that women like Brian because he can speak Portuguese and he's likable. Brian is telling Brian 2 how, him and Ingrid aren't staying in the same place and talks about how he's trying to get divorced from his last wife. Ingrid thinks it's strange that his wife won't finalize the divorce. Brian thinks his ex just wanted a green card. Brian then tells Ingrid he's been married 4 times. Ingrid knows about 2 of them, but it's a huge red flag that he has 4 ex-wives and, apparently, on top of that, 3 fiancés. Why is this man alone, she asks. Brian says that he's not a liar, but she also has to ask the right questions, which,
That's a liar.
Yeah. Ingrid says that she's only had 1 husband, and Brian doesn't think that 4 ex-wives is a lot. Ingrid then calls him out by asking if he's always been truthful about his age. And he says that he only put 45 on his profile because he didn't want a 50-year-old woman like him. Brian doesn't think that he lied and thought it was really obvious that that's not his real age because his daughter is 31, so how could he possibly be 45 and she should be doing the math? Brian accuses Ingrid of being judgy. Ingrid just thinks that she's another number. Brian maintains that he hasn't lied and the past doesn't matter. Brian doesn't think that she's going to stop judging his age, his past drug addiction, or his marriages. So what do you think? Is she going to stop judging, or do you think that Brian just needs to continue lying?
I mean, she should judge, for this. And it's yes, she's going to continue judging because she's right to judge.
Yes.
However, he should stop lying because that's what she's judging, right?
Yeah.
If he was open and honest about it, maybe she runs away because she's not into it, because she's not into somebody who is older. Maybe he doesn't and he can explain it. But yes, you didn't specifically ask me how many times I had been married is bullshit. Yeah.
Brian doing that, his whole age thing used to piss me the fuck off when it came to dating. You'd have these guys and they would kind of be upfront about the fact that they were older, but they were saying that they were younger because they wanted to pass through the filters, right? So they wanted to pass the filters because they wanted to date younger people. And it's just that is so deceptive. And also, if someone has a filter to filter you out, there's a reason. They don't want to date someone your age. So why are you trying to trick these filters so that way you can date younger women? That's it's messed up.
Right. Well, there's no way around it because at the end of the day, on a dating app, if he, first of all, fuck you for being I don't want to date a 50-year-old woman.
Right.
Well, you're 50.
Are
Shut
50.
the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right? And, okay, so give him we'll move past that, right?
Yeah.
You can set your age filters for whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
You can be 50 and put everybody between 30 and 35. I only want to show me women between 30 and 35, right? And that would come up, but you'd come up on them as a 50-year-old man. So it's about deceptively getting around. You're lying. There's no way that's what that is. Right. You're lying through an app, but you're lying to them about your age because you want them to talk to you and then you think you could pull the rug later, which is bullshit. That's...
Yeah, and it's also gross because he claimed to be oh, no, I never said that on my profile, when she originally confronted him about it. And then all of a sudden he's coming out with his, oh, yeah, well, I did do that because that doesn't count. That's not lying. It's on the internet. No big deal.
Yeah, that was just me. Yeah, it's so you didn't ask me how old I was. Yeah, I didn't ask you because your dating profile had a number on it. Yeah. I already knew the answer to that question. Right. Why would I ask you that? Which is, again, gets up his very specific. Well, if you wanted to know that, you had to know the secret thing to ask.
Questions. It's like,
yeah,
no, like that's not how dating should be. Like I have to strategically like know what kinds of questions to ask. I have to ask all the ridiculous possible things in the world that could possibly be something of concern just because you're not going to be forthcoming. I feel like
we've seen people, well, she never actually asked me if I was married.
Yeah, I know, right? Ridiculous. Yeah.
So that didn't come up.
Yeah, and I was going to say, that's kind of the thing right now. Apparently he is still married because the ex-wife isn't actually, following through. Well, he claims. Following through with her side of the divorce. So it's like, yeah, were you upfront about that?
No, he wasn't upfront about anything. No. Right? He wasn't upfront. And that's the thing, too, is that's why it's infuriating to him for him to be like, oh, if you love somebody, you should care for them when they're sick and infirm. And that's all good to say, right? But you lied to her about how much care you're going to need.
Yeah.
Like, that was another thing you lied about. Right. Like everything, the whole relationship's based on lies, and then you turn around and be like, "Well, I don't understand why you're being so judgy on my lies." It's like, because you lied. It's not. Yeah. It's not really a great hard thing to figure out here, buddy.
She's not sticking around long term. I think she's just trying to get what she can from this filming.
She's getting through the show. Yep,
yeah,
she's getting what she can through the show,
and she's done.
Yeah, and which is why I think she's not getting, like, she's giving him a hard time and she's ragging him about it, but she's not getting truly upset because she's already made the decision to break up with this guy.
I think she really cemented that decision when Mom was the kind of like
when Mom did the no-show thing. Yeah,
yeah, but for decent reasons. I don't want to say that because Mom did that blindly, not knowing what a mess this is, right? She was just being a jerk to be a jerk, but it just so happens that it was
she didn't like his vibe. Like she got a vibe from him and was like, yeah, I don't like this. I don't like it.
All right. So let's see. We've seen almost everyone except for the ones that we have a feeling we're not going to see much longer anyway. So Chitty and Renee, and then I don't know. We could see Tiger Lily and Adnan. I
imagine we'll see. We'll probably see them. They're still baby making. Oh, we got a preview for next week. They're going to be in the pool.
Right? Oh, gosh. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and he has a shirt on. So
he had a shirt on, though. Yes.
So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so out of the group you saw this week, who was your student of the week?
I'm going to say Vanja because I appreciate her kind of forthright honesty when he's like, maybe we can still be friends. She was like, no, I'm not interested in that. That's fine. We're done.
Yeah. I actually went with Ingrid because, and maybe it's like you said that she's just, over it and just kind of like going along for the ride and not reacting too much. But she isn't. She's calling him out appropriately, but not getting like heated or over the top ridiculous or mad about things. She's just, trying to make the most of this situation. All right. What about your dunce?
You can probably tell I got pretty heated about him. I'm going to say Sunny. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was ultra controlling behavior, completely inappropriate just to do in a fit of anger because I don't even know why. Like, I'm still not sure why he got angry at this guy, but like that was just it was gross behavior, and I'm not gives me student class dunce.
Yeah, I went with Joe. Like you can't even you don't even know. Like forget about pronouncing it. You don't even know your girlfriend's name. That when production asked, is it Magda or Magna, and he's like, I don't know. Like the fact that you don't know, that's bad. Like you can't.
That is curious. Is he just in her phone as like M Heart Eggplant or something like that? A Heart Peach, right? Is that like that's gotta be it, right?
Right. Like, how do you not know your girlfriend's name? And then also not calling her his girlfriend. And then making inappropriate sex jokes the entire time that they're in a group class. You know, it's just, and then like trying to like trick her into snuggling / having sex. Oh my God. Like all of that like was just terrible behavior.
That's also like maybe we can just cuddle for a while.
Oh yeah, just the tip. That's how that starts.
That is the lamest, like oldest, like hookup trick ever.
Right. Okay. So what about your life lesson?
My life lesson is I'll give this to Niles and Matilda. I think Matilda did take it too far. Like when someone says they need a minute for you to be quiet, especially when they're autistic, you have to give them a minute and let them be quiet. You cannot keep yelling at them. That is not going to help the situation at all.
Right, absolutely. Okay, my life lesson is for Loren. Like, don't ever involve random family members on your scamming, scheming, like fake fraudulent marriage plans.
The thing is I'm sure that he thought that was like really clever. Like he was like, if I can marry a Filipino woman,
and
then I could stay.
And she's not dating anyone, so she doesn't need to be married to anyone right now.
She doesn't need to be married, but also, and he was like, but I need to think of a woman that's not threatening at all, that she would know that I'm not trying to hook up with. Aha, I have just the woman.
Oh, God.
And then it's like, but then not stepping back and being like, you just told your girlfriend you want to marry his mom.
Mom. That's
like,
ridiculous. Ridiculous.
God.
All right, so we will be back again this time next week with, I don't know, we must be winding down because there's too many of these couples dropping like flies right now.
So this was 13, and I want to say I think it's going 18.
Oh, God.
So I think we might have 5 people and then 5 more and then the tell-up.
Oh, my God.
Which seems like a lot. Well, I mean, okay, so let's back up. We did see something in previews, Don and Tiger Lily. Yes. And then it seems like Vanya's just going to have like a mini single life season.
Oh, that's fun for her. I'm down for that.
Yeah, in Croatia. So that could happen. We might squeeze a few episodes out of that. But yeah it seems like Brian's it seems tough that they're going to squeeze 5 more episodes out of this.
Right. That reminds me of Ricky and Jimena. I don't think you were watching it at the time, but he kind of like Jimena basically stood him up. It was in some South American country. And so Ricky was like, oh, wait, I had a backup girlfriend here. And so all of a sudden he's trying to make things happen with the backup girlfriend. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. All right. So we will be back again this time next week.
Yep. See everybody then.
Until then.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.